I got a true story to tell you about a motorcycle trip I took with a good friend of mine. Back in about 1982, me and my buddy took off on motorcycles. We left Bedford, Indiana. We were on our way down to Whitesburg, Kentucky, going down to visit another good friend of mine that had moved there from Vero Beach, Florida. We had planned on being gone 7 or 8 days. Well, to start off with, we were to meet at my buddy's house and head out going south from there. He was in the shower when I got there. I yelled into him to let him know I was there. He yelled back out and asked me to get the clothes and things on the bed and put them in his duffel bag. So I did what he asked. I then went back outside to look over my bike to make sure everything was good to go. We finally get down the road, probably 60 or 70 miles. We then noticed that my buddy's bike started blowing oil out. He was riding a Honda Hawk. I think it was a 400. By this time we had left Indiana and was down on the other side of Louisville, Kentucky. The oil was blowing pretty good. My buddy decided we would just keep going. He didn't want to turn around and go back, so we kept on hammering down the highway. We stopped again a few miles down the road so he could check his oil, and we could take a break and top off on fuel. By then, his whole right leg, cowboy boot, everything was soaked in oil. We would stop about every 40 miles or so after that so he could add oil, and we kept going. It was getting late and the fog rolled in and it was sketchy for sure. But we finally made it to Whitesburg, Kentucky. We got there late around midnight. So we just pretty much said hello, washed off some road grime, and went to bed. The second night, we decided we would go get some beer and cigarettes. So we took off around the mountain into the nearest town that sold beer. Since Whitesburg was a dry county, we had to go over into Virginia. It was a little town called Pound, Virginia. We finally got our cigarettes and beer strapped on the bikes. We then started back. We decided that we would go over the mountain instead of around it because it was half the distance, and it was getting late. By this time, it had started getting dark, so we got back into the town of Whitesburg. We then started up through that mountain. It was just a one-lane blacktop road. I mean, it was a goat path with some switchbacks. As we finally got up on the mountain, one hell of a storm blew up. I mean, it was an awful storm. Lightning, thunder, wind, we got it all. It was totally dark, no security lights of any kind. No houses at all up on that mountain, completely dark. It was one of those storms where you could literally stand there and scream and not hear yourself. That's how bad it was. The wind and rain was blowing hard. All of a sudden, a tree so big I couldn't reach around fell across the road right in front of me. I was in front. I went down first and slid on my back. I don't know how it happened, but the bike slid right up to the fallen tree. I was on my back sliding. I guess the momentum brought me up to my feet, and I slid right up to my bike on my feet. I looked around and I couldn't see my buddy anywhere. I could see his headlights sticking up, shining through the trees and the rain. I then take off screaming and yelling for him. I found him just over the edge of the blacktop. He was over on ledge just off to the side of the road. That was a huge drop-off. I don't know how far it was over the cliff, but it was a long way down. Luckily, he didn't go that far. He was just right off the edge of the road. I found him and was able to get him and his bike back up on the road. After dragging his bike back up on the road, we sat there and thought we would just ride this storm out. We got our bikes up on the side stands, and then we huddled up by that big tree that had fallen across the road in front of us until the storm passed. There was no way we could get over or around the tree, so we had to backtrack. We got on our bikes and went back down the mountain the way we had came from the town of Whitesburg. We then had to ride all the way around the mountain to get back to my friend's house. By this time it was around 2 o'clock in the morning. We got all cleaned and bandaged up. My buddy was skinned up pretty bad. We went on to bed. The next morning I get up early and go out to look at the bikes. The one thing that was bad about that place is we were way up in a holler. And remember, we are way over in the southeastern part of Kentucky. My friend that lived there told us when we first got there. He said, pull your bikes up to the porch and use this log chain. He said, because if you don't, your bikes will be gone tomorrow morning. He went on to tell us, these people don't see stuff like this here, and they will be gone. We did like he told us to do and locked them up to the porch. Well, the next morning after having that wreck up on the mountain, I go out on the porch with a cup of coffee. Sure enough, there's like 6 or 8 guys standing around looking over our bikes, like they were looking at spaceships. I tried to talk to them. They did not want anything to do with me. As I was trying to talk to them, they wouldn't talk to me or even look up at me. As I was talking, they just walked away. I thought it was very odd. They were not friendly at all. I looked the bikes over one more time in the daylight. I didn't have much damage to my bike. I just had one broken turn signal and skinned up. My hand grip and I think cracked a mirror. I looked my buddy's bike over and his was skinned up a little worse than mine. He had broken off turning signal and bent his handlebars and broken mirror. His bike was still rideable. Then here he come outside. We sat there and drank our coffee. He then said he needed to go upstairs and change clothes. He goes upstairs and I hear him start raising hell. He was yelling that he didn't have any other blue jeans to put on, and the only jeans he had to wear was oil-soaked. Then he said it was because I didn't put his jeans in the duffel bag. I then told him he should have packed his own shit. It wasn't my job to pack for him. Well, anyways, we talked it over and decided we need to get back home. Yes, I thought that was a good idea. We just cut the trip short and cut our losses and head back home. So we told my friend our goodbyes. He completely understood. We loaded and strapped everything on the bikes and took off down the road. I figured we would take it slow and easy going home. We had had more than enough time to get back home. We hit the road leaving Whitesburg. It was nice sunny morning, around 60 to 65 degrees. Well, our luck being what it was, the temperatures dropped and dropped fast. It was in the middle of April and the temperature dropped down into the high 30s real fast. It got really cold. If you have ever spent any time riding motorcycles, then you know how high 30s feels. Going down the road, we stopped at a little country gas station and bought all the brown jersey gloves they had. Got us a hot coffee filled up with gas. We bundled up with everything we had. We looked like a couple of guys from the movie Christmas Story. We couldn't hardly reach the handlebars. Well, we took off down the road again. We finally made back to Louisville, Kentucky. We were frozen and miserable by this time. We decided we would stop at a Waffle House. Down at the bottom of the ramp, get some food, hot coffee, and warm up. Then we would head back across the Ohio River to Indiana. Well, as luck would have it, we was going down the off-ramp. At this time, my buddy was leading, riding out in front. I shit you not. A little green Ford Escort comes around me on my right side, pulls ahead of both of us, and then pulls back in and clips my buddy's front wheel. My buddy goes flipping end over end down the off-ramp. I am totally freaked out. I thought, oh hell, he's hurt for sure this time. I got stopped and off to the side of the ramp. I ran over and dragged my buddy over to the curb. My buddy was moaning and groaning, cussing and raising hell. I then got his bike drug out of the road and to the curb. There was a police officer at the bottom of the off-ramp, and he was directing traffic. He had seen all of this happen. I go to this police officer and asked, "Are you going to call somebody? You just seen what happened. I think my buddy is hurt." This police officer looked me right in the eye and said, "Buddy, do you realize how many green Escorts there are in Louisville, Kentucky?" I said, "No, I have never given it much thought." He then said to me, "Did you get a license plate number or a name?" I said, "No, sir, I didn't." I said to him sarcastically, "Did you?" He then said, "No, I didn't either." He then told me he would call an ambulance. My buddy over sitting on the curb started yelling, "Hell no, I don't want a damn ambulance." We were not too far from the bell of Louisville Steamboat. So I then go over to the steamboat and talk to a guy. I didn't know if he was a waiter, busboy, usher, or maitre d'. I didn't care. He went and got me some towels, first aid kit, and 4 rolls of black electrical tape. I go back over to my buddy and doctor him up the best I could. We then get his bike up beside the road and try to fix the handlebars. It broke one side almost completely off. There was just a small part of it hanging on. We wrapped tape around that thing and around his headlight too until we used up all the tape. The headlight had even popped out. When we finished, it looked like a football on his handlebars just from all of the tape. We go ahead on down the ramp and onto the Waffle House. We got some hot coffee and a warm meal. We spent a couple hours or more at that Waffle House just trying to get warm. We then saddled up and took off again. But believe me, we took it slow and easy. We finally crossed over the Kennedy Bridge into Indiana. We felt much better. We were getting close to home. When we got home, my buddy pulled that bike around to the back of the house. He then pulled his luggage off. He didn't even put the kickstand down on the bike. He just leaned it over against the fence in the weeds. That bike laid there for a few years. It never was rode again. I believe that his dad finally had it hauled off for junk. This is a true story. My buddy is not with us anymore. He was a dear friend to me and my family. We all thought the world of him. He was a real good, kind-hearted soul. You just had to know him to love him. Every day was a fun day for him. He lived life to the fullest. His name was Emery Myers. I truly thought the world of that guy. We had a lot of good times in our young lives. I think about him a lot these days. I just thought that this was a good memory of mine. I thought it would an interesting story to tell. Thanks for listening.